Start with pledge of allegiance. Stand if you're able to. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, tonight's meeting is the 2023-2024 version of our truth and taxation. And with that, I'll turn it over to our finance director, Carla. She has a PowerPoint she wants to show us.
All right, so the purpose of this meeting tonight is to go through the 2024 budget and to receive public input and comments from both the council and from citizens. So the biggest thing is we try to find out is where cities get their money. And as you can see, there's kind of revenue sources that we have stuck up there where you've got charges for services, your property taxes, intergovernmental, we've got charges for licensing and permits that we have. We might get some grants, franchise fees, recreation fees like from our swimming pool and such, as well as there could be some fines, interest, and other miscellaneous things, as well as some, we get money that comes back from our special assessments when we're doing on-street projects as well. And city expenditures that we have are with our Parks and Recreation, the fire and EMS, the library, law enforcement, community development, streets and sidewalks, general government, capital improvement, water, sewer, and storm sewer. And here's just kind of some information on why property taxes vary from year to year. A lot of it has to do with market value change, the market value of the properties within the city and how things are selling and where they're going. And these are values that are put on by the county that are given to people who live in the city, not something that the city has control over. There could be referendums that could change your property taxes, as well as changes in state aid, federal government, and the inflation and infrastructure and public safety is a big thing, and anything that like the council wants to put forward and do with council initiatives or citizens' ideas, which would vary our property taxes as well. So the total budget is made up of two segments, which is the governmental funds, which is the general, special, debt, and capital, and the enterprise funds, which is the enterprise funds are set up as kind of a separate entity, like a business in themselves, where they run separately from the other things. What we're looking at for 2024 is a total budget of $11,478,205. There is a larger amount in here that we have, but we are using reserve dollars that are being used for the library capital project, so that's why you're seeing a bigger number than we normally do, but we are incorporating the reserves in there. It's not coming from taxpayers, it's not coming from incremental funding that we're doing. Here's just a slide that gives you a general gist of the total budget for revenue, kind of where we get the majority of our budget. You can kind of see everything, 52% comes from property taxes, which is pretty traditional for most cities. They're going to get at least half of their total budget for revenue from property taxes, and you can see the other small items that come in there. And then you do see a bigger chunk of that fund balance that we are bringing in because we are using some of the reserves coming up in 2024 for those projects. This slide then has the expenditures for the total for the government budget, and there's a big chunk that is going to capital, but there is also a big chunk that goes to the general operating expenses, which is a lot of most of our city staff are going to be incorporated into those areas. There's some of the staff that is incorporated into the enterprise, but the majority of it comes through the total general government budget. Here's just a slide that kind of gives you a lowdown or the breakdown of all of what is going into the general funds and what's going into the special funds, and what you're kind of seeing there, kind of a breakdown between everything that makes it the bigger number. Just for a background and details on those. The enterprise funds are, like I said, those are different from your property taxes, and actually we can use some of those enterprise funds that we have from that business that can help offset the property taxes that we have, and we use those in the general fund as well. So the operations for those are similar to a for-profit commercial business. So they are established fees, and they have to, all of the fees that we have in there and what all of our operating costs that we have within the enterprise funds have to be self-sustaining. So our fees have to be able to cover those. We look at those being equitable and affordable for taxpayers. And they also help, we put money aside for those for capital improvement projects, like we did for the wastewater treatment plant this year, when we used those capital funds for the savings that we had to be able to do the expansion, or not the expansion, but to do the roof repairs that we needed to do for that. And this just kind of gives you another, just a visual of what we're seeing there for both revenue and expenses, and where those items kind of come in. And as you can see, there's a big chunk of it that is capital, but we keep a portion of that for the water, sewer, storm sewer, that when we are doing those projects and we're building up those, so we are not asking for any money from taxpayers on that to do those. So this is kind of the fun stuff, is here's our tax capacity rate formula. So this gives you the formula. As you can see, A is our city certified levy, B is our tax capacity market value, and C is our city tax capacity rate. So the current formula for 2024, you can see there, and it gets us to a percentage of 6.93%. This is the same rate as it was in 2023, and if you remember too, in 2023, when we went down to this rate, it was actually a rate coming down. This is the same, right around the same rate as what it was back in 2016. We were able to come back down to this. This does not include the pool or the fire hall referendums. And if you recall too, we had redone the financing for the fire hall, and we were able to save quite a bit of money on that a couple of years ago with that. We have a total tax levy increase of 8.67%, but we have a tax base increase of 9.25%. So we are not asking for any more, we're actually asking for less from most taxpayers if their home would stay at the same level.
And this is down from that roughly 12% from our, remember our first workshop? So you've helped us whittle that down to this amount.
Yeah, so there's about, this is about a $250,000 difference from what you saw at the preliminary tax workshop. This number is coming down from there. So there's quite a savings that we're able to find and allocate for. So this is our assessed market value. So this is what, with the tax capacity rate that we do, the assessed market value is what the count is a number that the county gives us based on residential homes as well as our properties. You can see that there was, it's about half the increase is what it was in 2023. The biggest thing for us to look at is 15% of our tax capacity or market value rate that we're getting is from new construction, and about 85% is from evaluations, where last year it was only 10% from new construction and 90% from reevaluations. So this just gives you an idea of the tax capacity rate from 23 to 24, what we're looking at for the city rate, as well as the county rate and the school rate. Then with the school referendum and the pool and the fire hall referendum. The pool will be completed in 2026 for the referendum, and the fire hall we have got till 2033, and that one then will be completed. Here's just a graph, actually a graph of the same thing in just two different areas. Kind of shows you over the last 10 years where our rates are at, and kind of you can see that the city is the blue, and we're staying stable as we took a nice drop down last year, and we're staying stable now going from 23 to 24 with this, looking at that tax history on this. As well as we're looking at the county rate and the school rate, taking that same either even or even a small decline on this. This gives you the historical data from 2015 to 2024 based on all of our tax capacity rate changes with all of the levies and the percentage of changes. As you can see, within the change from 23 to 24, we're looking at an increase of the $374,000, which that there is money that is allocated in there for the capital project, which those are coming from the trust and coming from reserve, so we're not asking for additional taxpayer dollars to come in to fund this. And I was able to pull together from some of the other cities a comparative levy data. So kind of looking at that, and the number that's kind of fun to be able to see is looking at it per capita. When you look at, well, we are at $643.36 per capita, and looking at a lot of the other towns around us are, significantly higher than that. Some are lower, but we're actually sitting in a pretty good area. And then it does have the history there of the tax capacity rates all the way back to 2017 for all of those as well. This is just some additional information to you, to give you guys about the property tax system and kind of how it works. It starts with our local assessor, which is a county assessor, and it ends up with the tax settlements. The city has no authority to determine what property is taxable, nor what appropriations or amounts. Many cities in Minnesota, property tax is the main source of their revenue, which you saw, that's about 52% of what our revenue is coming in. This gives us just then a little bit on the bottom of the slide that gives you the property tax changes, and it gives you a little bit of ideas for why property taxes go up and why property taxes go down. And I know this is some of the same information that I gave to you last year, but I think it's one of those things that is always good to know, just to give an idea, especially too if you get any questions from taxpayers on where things are at with this. Then on the next slide, this is that homestead market value exclusion, which is always the thing that is very hard to understand. But the exciting thing that we have for you is there is legislative changes coming that were approved in 2023 that don't take effect until 2025, but they will be doing some changes. So there has not been any sort of changes since 2012 with any of these values. So with them changing, the legislative changes for this, I'll give you an example. You have a home that has a $280,000, let's say, value. So their taxable market value in 2024 would be about $267,000. But in 2025, with that equation change and with that law change, their taxable market value goes down to like $258,000. So there's about over a $9,000 difference in taxable market value for homeowners. So that's going to help some relief on their taxes, as well as that's saying if values stay the same from year to year.
County don't keep reassessing
Right.
20% a year. So.
But it should at least still help, and hopefully now that this tax law has been changed once, they'll continue to evaluate it, and they won't wait 20 years before they look at it again. So, but it's exciting. It gives people some relief to look forward to. This is just a residential property tax example. And as you can see, I used a value of a home that was $315,300, and if that home value stayed the same from 23 to 24, there would actually be a decrease in taxes from year to year. But with a percentage change of 12%, which the county assessed for, then you can see as they do that, your market value exclusion goes down, so then your taxable market value is going up. And this kind of just gives you an example of what goes to the city, what goes to the county, and what goes to the school as well for the allocations within those dollars. This is then the next one is a commercial property tax example that gives you the same sort of information to show you that the cities, and with keeping that tax capacity rate level from year to year, there would actually be a small decrease in taxes if that stayed the same. And that is all I have for you guys. So if you have any questions on anything or any comments that you would like to say or ask me about, please let me know.
So the one thing you should see immediately when you get your actual tax statement is on average, the city portion should look lower than that preliminary one you got just a couple weeks ago. Because that was based on that 12%, what we thought would be a proposed increase. But once Carla was able to get all the final evaluation numbers and then the work you did, make sure we stayed as low as possible or stable. So if that average home showed 200-300 in city portion going up, it'll probably still show an increase because the valuation went up, but it should be less than what that preliminary statement was. So hopefully that's a help, a little bit of a help when they get the actual statements.
Anybody here got any questions, statements, comments, discussion? Julie, do you have a question you'd like to ask?
It's about the library thing, but not at that, so I just had a question on that, that's the reason I came.
How it's being financed, you mean, or what?
Correct.
So the library portion is actually being financed through multiple different things. One of the things that we're doing right now is we are looking at doing as many grants as possible. They have, and we kind of have a unique situation where we have a couple of years to look at doing grants in both 24 and in 25, depending on the stages of the project. So there's a good portion that we do have a trust that we can take the money from that was specifically for brick and mortar things that we have to do. We have capital savings that we've been putting aside for this project as well. And then the other thing that we are able to do is we've had some nice interest rate increases that were above and beyond what we thought they would be for 2023. So we're able to put a lot of those funds directly into that, so that is more capital savings that go into that project. Then instead of looking at doing a referendum or making a higher tax bill for taxpayers, we're looking at reallocating some of the savings that we have. So, for example, we'll just give you an example. I'm going to say we put $10,000 into setting aside every year to do sidewalks. So instead of setting aside $10,000 for 2024, we're going to set aside $5,000 and we're going to allocate the other $5,000 to the library. We're doing some shifting through things like that so that we're not looking at making any additional hurt to the taxpayers, but yet we're going to be responsible, being able to still save the funds for the projects and for the future without needing to come back and hurt ourselves at all.
Without raising the taxes, is what she's saying. When she talks about the interest increase, Julie, that's the money we're putting in the bank. Now that the interest rates have gone up for us, we can take some of that money that we're earning and allocate it towards this too.
Because I was just under the impression, when I talked to Bill today about that if the project was under $1 million, then we, as taxpayers, wouldn't have a referendum or vote on it or say on it, whatever. But over the $1 million, then it was supposed to go to a voter, a chance to voters to say something. Now it's 2.15 million.
Well, have we finally settled on a number yet? Are we still whittling on that, or you guys finally, the plan is what?
Yeah, I think it's around 2.4.
2.4.
So, I mean, that's a lot of money that we didn't have a choice to say as a citizen, a taxpayer citizen, do I agree with that? I mean, if we want to change the library limit, that's fine. When I've been in there, I haven't seen hardly anybody in there using it as far as whatever they're taking, whatever goes and all that stuff. I don't go that often, not like I used to. But when I did, 2-3 people, that would be all I'd see in the whole library. So my question is, why are we putting 200 million, 2 million, change in this thing when I don't think that we're warranting the need for that?
Do you want to help?
Yeah, well, part of it is though too, let me see if I'm right. Some of this, Julie, they're talking about, when they start talking about grants, we're talking about possibly getting, if they get all the grants, they're going after upwards of $1 million in grants, isn't that correct?
It could be up to $1 million.
So that puts you back at the 1.5. Then they've got 400-some thousand already in the library trust that can be used. Selco's gonna put money to it. So the actual number that we're using, moving around in our own budget probably is at $1 million or less. You understand what I'm saying? And we felt as a council that we were still, if we can, you can ask Nate and you can ask the staff. I'm pretty hard about making sure you better get some of these grants, and I still bring it up about every so often, don't I, Nate, about this May?
Right, if they fall through, we are paying.
Yes, but they have the plan set aside, the way they can move the money without raising the taxes to move the money, Julie, is what I'm saying. If we were gonna go for a $2.5 million or just raise taxes enough to do it, that's one thing. But right now, as it looks, and it's still a lot of planning going on. They're still whittling on it, they're still doing everything they can to make it as financially feasible to the taxpayers as we feel we can.
Well, we're already paying on our taxes for this year, because that's what Bill told me today. We're already paying, it's already built into our taxes that we got. And that was unbeknown to me.
Well, you're paying what you would have paid anyhow. That's what she's trying to explain to
Right,
you.
so there will be no change, there is no change, even if we took the library project out of this, your taxes would be the exact same in 2024. We're just gonna put that money, shuffle that back into those other reserves for those other items that we normally save for the future. We're not, so it would not change anything at all. So that's the thing that we're trying to do, is we're not trying to change anything, we're not trying to create any sort of hardship. We're looking at ways that we can move things around, not to hurt citizens at all in either way. Because we don't want to not have the savings for the future, so we can't take care of the projects that we need to do in the future, nor do we want to not have the amount to be able to do for the library, because, you know, there's a great belief that it will be a very big benefit to the citizens and to the community.
There's allocated, non-allocated funds in the budget every year. And at the end of the year, when you don't use the unallocated, go to something else, we can also shift towards something else without raising your taxes. And Carla's totally correct. We could just say, forget the library, and you're gonna have the same tax bill right now as you're gonna get if we build that library, if you know what I'm saying.
And when I told you taxpayers pay it, the library is a department of the city. So all the years it's been that department, it's our tax dollars that operate it and always save aside for capital.
But I will tell you this, before it even came to the council, it's a group of citizens on the board. They're appointed citizens or people that have asked to be on the library board. A lot of this ideas and conceptions are actually their ideas. Some of them are even more grandiose than this, and as a staff and stuff, they whittle them down. But we're taking all of our input, not just from Nate, not just from Bill. It's coming from that board of citizens. And then we take a look at it and see if we need to do a little bit more or whatever. So, I'm not gonna disagree with you. Whenever I step in the library, I'm not gonna say it's wall-to-wall people either. But if we look at the numbers year to date, you wouldn't hardly believe the amount of increase in traffic, increase in books going in and out, increase in library cards and things like that. It's like going to the restaurant. If you get the right time numbers there, you get to eat real fast. You go there the next time, she's wall-to-wall people. So, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not really, you can ask the staff, I'm the one that's always pushed for it. We gotta raise this money, and if we can't figure out how to do it for $1 million. But it's been figured out. We haven't got the grants. We're not gonna sit here and tell you we have. We're working on them. We're very hopeful. They look very promising from what we've been told. So.
But if we don't get the grants, the project isn't gonna go through or what?
Well, there's still gonna be some shuffling, and it might take this.
We have gotten some grants already.
Yeah, but some of this movement of money, maybe it has to be moved for a couple more years, if you know what I'm saying. But we're always gonna continue, no matter what, to not raise the taxes to do, we gotta raise the taxes to raise $2 million, I'll guarantee you. I'll be the first one, so we gotta vote on this.
Well, I would hope that we have the chance to vote. Because the school would have done us a disfavor, dishonor by doing what they did already.
Yeah.
And I don't wanna see the same thing happen, get this pushed through, and then we don't have a say in it.
You're not gonna, we're probably not gonna end up, unless we cannot get grants and stuff, and we have to raise taxes in the next year or so to do this. But if we can keep moving through the system with the grants, with the trust money, with this, you're not really comparing apples to oranges there. That's what you're comparing, because the schools wanted $62 million they did not have.
Right.
This staff and everybody's always been very prudent about making sure we have money set aside in reserves for the fact if a project comes up, we don't have to raise taxes out of sight to do it. So rest assured, we're keeping an eye on it, Julie. We are. I've been told I run amok around here, but by certain citizens, but we're not letting the staff run amok. We're not, don't take my word for
Is there anywhere that I can see the plan for the expansion?
it. You'll have to ask me, Karen. And you gotta remember, this will be more, actually, it's gonna be more than just a library, Julie. It's gonna be a community area that we can do other functions in there and stuff too.
Collection space, program space.
I don't know, Nate, what do you wanna add, Nate?
Yeah, I would definitely emphasize that there are times of the day, particularly before school lets out, where the library is not heavily used. But then typically when we have a story time on Tuesday mornings, we'll have as many as 70 children come to story time. And the improvements that we're looking at making into the library are going to be a significant community resource. There are going to be elements that are going to go beyond what are specifically for public library functions. They're things, we're looking at a way of have that the library can be accessed and enjoyed in its meeting rooms before the library is open and continue to be enjoyed after the library is closed. So it's really more of a community resource after this project is done than it has ever been before. And also the handout that I gave you, one of the things in there, and I'd be happy to go over this with you, is one of the elements of the project that we were able to eliminate was, it looked like we were gonna have to do a roof reinforcement for the project and that we no longer need to do that. So that was $100,000 in savings in this project. So the pools of money that this is coming from, we have a foundation, we also have trusts, there are just so many pools, and we also have had minimal, we haven't even approached citizens and service organizations yet for donations. There's so much work that's going to be happening over these next 2 years to pay for this project. And really it's a three-year plan of new construction in 2024, renovation of our existing library space, a light renovation in 2025, and then parking lot and exterior in 2026. And over that, we'll be able to spread out those costs, seek out funding, and have as minimal impact on taxpayers as possible while providing a service that our community currently doesn't have.
So is this supposed to take up most of the parking lot, or not the parking lot, but the lot behind it and where the liquor store was before? Does it go into that area?
Yeah, so you can see the first photo there is that's the footprint with the property lines. So the lot immediately next to the library, that is city-owned property, and that blue shaded area is where the new meeting room space would go, and then the space behind the library is where additional collection space would be.
Okay.
So it all fits on the current property
Yep.
ownership.
City-owned property.
Okay.
And Julie, the people on the library board and the people that use it are just as passionate as the people on the park board and the people that use our park. I mean, everybody has their passion. We want to make it the best we can for everybody.
Well, I understand that, but I just, when it was 2.3 or 4, whatever million, I'm like, whoa, we're supposed to have a say in some of this, and if I don't have my say, I'm not gonna be a happy person.
Well, what I'm saying is, right now, we're still, the part that we're looking at, because they haven't come up with all these other cell code and everything else, we're still not really, I'm gonna call it the taxpayer portion, but we all pay state taxes and get our grants and stuff like that. For the city, there's really not, if it's at $1 million, you know what I'm saying? So, that's part of what we're looking at as a council too, that we're kind of at a comfortable number that we feel like we're pulling out of our budget, moving around stuff too, without affecting you. without affecting any of your services for your property as far as sewer, water, snow, any of that. Police protection, fire protection, everything stays exactly like it is. The parks keep getting improved, exactly as we always have, so it's, really, you're not gonna see any change in any services or anything, or even in your tax bill.
That was my question, that's what I came for.
Well, I hope I kinda answered it for you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and how are we gonna know, when are we gonna know if these grants won't go through and whatever?
With it, some of them have been submitted, and there have been a couple of smaller ones that the library has already gotten, but they're, like I said, the kind of cool thing about it is there's an opportunity to go over a few years on it because of the way that the project is set up. So we have the opportunity if, one of the grants that we think for a certain portion of the project doesn't go through on that, we can still reapply for it on the next portion of the project and have that too. So we've got, it's kind of a unique project in that aspect, and like you said, we're trying to make it spread out so that it is as even keel as possible, that we're not asking taxpayers for more money. We understand where everybody is sitting and, and where the county has increased values on homes, no matter what the city does. That's why we're trying to keep things as flat as possible. So nobody's feeling
One thing,
anything from it.
Nate touched on, I forgot to, we have had, because we haven't really tried for it yet, but we have had several citizens come and already want to pledge several $1,000s towards, I mean, there's citizens that this is their passion and they're ready to put some money towards it too, for a family member or whatever, but some of them are very sizable amounts too, which, well, like when the pool went, you can donate this or donate that. That's something you really like, is the pool.
153 and a half miles
Is that right?
for the season, most I've ever done.
So I hope we're answering some of your questions and make you feel a little better about the deal.
Yeah, yeah. And I was, pretty raw with the school thing, and I'm like, if we're gonna do the same thing with this,
No.
that's not gonna go over well. And I'm not the only one that feels that way, I know that.
And you know as well as anyone, door is always open if you have questions, you come on.
Oh yeah, Bill knows.
Yeah,
This is here sometimes.
we've gone in the office a few times, yeah. So,
Yeah, just get my path right for skiing and I'll be okay then.
all right, any other questions or anything else we need to know from staff, or you guys got any other questions or any comments or anything you want to add to this? If not, Carla, your presentation was very good as usual.
Thank you. I'm all done. I'm ready. We're good to go now.
All right, I guess the only thing we have to do is call for a motion to adjourn. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. We're adjourned.